Probably can't see it out there right now, but the moon is being eclipsed. This is the 8 gate of November 1/1, but as we should know, Nova means 9, so it's actually the 8/9/22, and the 22 could be pretty well meaningless, except just take 1,000 years off. So it's the year 1022, and it's the 8th of the 9th month. So if you add those numbers together, 8 and 9 is 17, and 1 and 7 is 8. So that's the 8 gate. And the 1022, well, you've got the 22 is a power number, so you have to make it 23. So 23 and 8 is 31. And there you have it, 31 days in a month. See, anybody can make up whatever shit they want, if they want. I just did. Truth of the matter is, it's just 8th day of November, so that's 8/11, so that's 19, and 1 and 9 is 10, and 10 is 1 and 0, so that's 1. And the year 22, well, you could either call it 2022, which makes it a 6, and 1 and 6 is 7, and so that's the number of fingers I got on this hand. -2. Numerology is a funny thing, isn't it? What better time to discuss crap like numerology than in the middle of a lunar eclipse? Because we're reaching the point now, I don't know if the camera will even show through the window. Geez, it's more than half now. The moon is more than half eclipsed. It's not meant to be to totality till, I think it was, we got our lunar calendar here, we'll just have a look together, shall we? Where are we? November 8th in Taurus, 10:03 p.m, 16 degrees 1 minute. That's going to be the totality of the eclipse, but of course the totality of the eclipse could last several hours, so we're nearly there. And this is the really freaky thing about it, which I hesitate to bring up because it freaks me out, simply because of previous experiences of having watched the lunar eclipse myself, when, entirely unlike this eclipse, like I thought I knew the heliocentric model very, very well. Watching the eclipse, I was at the easternmost point of the Australian mainland, overlooking Cape Byron. I specifically chose to look out, I think it's called, it's one of the chutes anyway. It could be Cooper's Chute. Anyway, it's the one with the best view over the bay for this type of thing. And unbeknownst to me, I took my partner and her kids. I said, come on, we're going to go watch. Well, they didn't necessarily have to come, but she's an ex-partner now, and they're not my kids. But anyway, we tried to make a family stay. Point is, we went to the point to watch the most ideal place for a lunar eclipse, which was supposed to happen at about 9:30, I think it was, on that particular night. And when we got there was lots of other people, kind of like, just backpackers and various odds and sods. It's Byron Bay, of course. And this bloke rocks up. He's obviously the landowner, the farmer or whatever that owns the land, and he's just like telling everybody to get the hell off his land, as though we were just sort of like all congregating for a full moon party or something. We're going to have a doof. Never been to a doof. All my years, never been to a doof. Anyway, he just assumed everybody's turning up to have an illegal doof on his block of land, and me being obviously not a young backpacker type or anything at the time, even though it was definitely not as old as I am now. It's 15 to 20 odd years ago. I explained to him, we're just looking for a nice place to watch the lunar eclipse, and just thought this would be the perfect place because it's a sort of a bald hill, no trees, nothing in the way, and even though it's not a public lookout place, I thought we're not going to hurt your cow paddock to come and walk in and just sit and watch the lunar eclipse. And he's all right, so he watched it, and the shadow of the Earth. See, that's what I was most excited to see, because I've been watching full moon rises for years and years. I even got married to my ex-wife before that partner under a full moon at Cape Byron Lighthouse. Specifically chose the date so that as the sun set, the moon would come up as a kind of a blessing over us. And I do a lot of things in my life to revolve around the moon. That's why I'm so excited watching an eclipse happening right now and not thinking real clearly. Let's see, can I get it in the... I don't know if it'll show, if we'll go through the reflection of the glass, so I have to go outside and do it. I'm also getting a bit hungry because it's going to be late in the evening and I've got to get up 3 o'clock again in the morning and go to work, but it's a lunar eclipse. Once every couple of year event in your lifetime. So yeah, I'm watching this eclipse, right? And the shadow is coming from the top left down across the face of the moon. And I'm like, hang on a second. I know the heliocentric model inside and out. My personal philosophical, spiritual beliefs center around knowing where I am, where I live, on this spinning space ball, this special little blue marble in the Goldilocks zone, going the perfect distance away from Helios, hurtling through the galaxy. Like, I didn't even know that Helios was moving at 500,000 miles an hour back then. I just sort of assumed, well, it's also gently wafting like everything else. But as it turns out, Helios, the sun, we and the other wandering stars wander about, and as it's obviously must happen, all the other constellations must also be heliocentric for them to remain so constant for so many thousands of years. But I was expecting to see the shadow either come up from the bottom because we're perfectly aligned, or from the top down. I was curious to watch because, you know, the moon obviously goes backwards from west to east around us once every 27.3 days because it has to, in order to rise 50 minutes later every day to give the appearance of rising in the east and going over us to the west in the heliocentric model. So I could understand it may appear to go backwards according to convention, what you might expect, you know, your intuitive it's counterintuitive. It's just counterintuitive to what you'd expect. It's anyway, what I did see was even more counterintuitive. Absolutely more counterintuitive to what I expected to see. Absolutely wrong. And yet, as I watched it approach from the upper left-hand quadrant from my point of view and encroach across the moon, I got the chills, and they were multiplying. And tonight, as I've come outside to just put the moon behind me, so you can see, and maybe if you took stills and cropped it, I've been doing that on Facebook this evening. Take a still, it doesn't look like much, but as you crop it and zoom in on the cropped image, you can see where the shadow's coming from, and the shadow's coming from the bottom right hand side and moving diagonally, virtually the opposite way of the very first lunar eclipse I saw, like really saw, thinking I understood this heliocentric model to a T. Now why, since it's more or less the same time of night, it's maybe just an hour or two early at the most, how is it possible now that tonight the shadow's coming from the direct opposite side and moving up leftwards, more upwards than left, but that's the direction it's going? It makes no sense whatsoever. And in fact, because of the lack of the luminescence of the moon, as I took a few still shots before, you could actually see some unusual looking stars, ones that don't normally show up. And as I'm holding the camera there, because I couldn't even see these ones with my naked eye, but as I'm holding the camera, it was on night mode. I'll just go back in for the moment, because there's no point being out there when you can't see much. When I know you'd much rather be seeing my ugly face. Is these stars appeared in the still images, but as I'm holding the camera there, they're just sort of blinking and flashing. So I'm looking outside the camera, looking for the planes that won't be making it. No planes whatsoever. Put the camera back up. The camera can detect lights that the eye doesn't see, and there's one either side. And you can see these still images on my Facebook account, the backup one, of course. It's Eddie T Rose, T with a dot. And yeah, those pictures I've put them on Facebook. I'm going to go out and take some more in just a minute and put them up as well. And now I've got video evidence recording the story of the first eclipse that I really watched. And the shadow of whatever that came across the moon came from the top left across this way. This evening it's coming from the bottom right and it's going up that way. And I think that is pretty profound. So that's why I'm recording this. I'm not trying to postulate a theory just yet, apart from the fact that I don't think it's the shadow of the Earth. I don't think it possibly could be, because it's the same Earth going the same direction around the same sun, and the same thing that should be causing a lunar eclipse at this period of time is, it's definitely a different season, because it's definitely not as cold. I remember being very cold that last time I did watch it, but for the life of me can't remember what month it might have been, because we didn't even have digital cameras back then. I still had film camera, and so this is pretty modern. We're getting more and more modern all the time. That's one thing I would really like to stress. That's one thing that a lot of people take for granted, but don't really even give it the credibility that it deserves. And I think it deserves a toast. Since we're coming into a blood moon, we'll drink a glass of blood red wine. And as you can see, this is just a rosé. It's not a heavy one. And here's to profound truths. And that profound truth is the modern digital camera. I've always been interested in photography from a young age. When I was an exchange student in the States for my 17th birthday, my mother just happened to be on a business trip that also took her over to the States near enough so that she could have a stopover for a couple of days and stay as well just before, a few weeks before I came home anyway. And it was right near my 17th birthday, and I was gifted the best gift that you can imagine for a 17-year-old. It's a fully automatic Pentax SLR camera. It wasn't digital. I still took film, so I could do black and white and, SLR 100, 200, 400, whatever, It's so far back in time now, I can't even remember what it all means. Well, I do, but it's not relevant. The fact is, having a camera like that back in the day, I was sort of the top of the game of photography in its age. And I was just a beginner. So I wasn't really even much good at taking it off automatic. And this photographer who I worked for running a film development store, she kept at me saying, you got to take it off automatic, And yeah. I won a few prizes in photography as well back then. But anyway, the thing is, I have full respect, because of that background, for the modern digital age of photography. Because in 5 minutes, I can press the button on this phone and take more pictures for free, delete what I want, no wasted film. Every single photo could just be, 1 out of 100 might be a good one. So I can just delete those 99, no expense. Whereas back in the day, if you had a roll of 36 film, you're doing well. Usually you only had 24. And you made sure when you were going to take a picture that picture counted. You're not just going to go and waste a whole, a burst of shots on film in the hope that one might be good, unless you were a really professional photographer and you can afford that sort of shit. I was a high school student. When you took a picture, you made it count. So for me, I understand the wealth, the absolute wealth of the digital age to be able to record a shit ton of photos and film and have digital enhancement and zoom and all this sort of stuff that 20 years ago didn't even exist. We are so privileged we don't even know it. And we have this stuff that we can send up on high altitude weather balloons and see stuff that it's just unimaginable. You would have needed rockets and Hollywood studio sets, literally, say no more, to be able to get the same sort of quality that an amateur person today could probably do for a couple of $1,000 maximum outlay. And that is phenomenal. We can record for hours and hours. We don't have to have realms and realms and realms of film which are subject to radiation and all the rest. We live in the age of wonder. And that is why Flat Earth is such a big deal. Why it is literally coming to fruition, because we have this technology. And if this technology didn't exist, it'd be easy for some dickhead in a white coat sitting in a classroom to tell the school children that some bloke 200 years ago worked it all out, and you just have to shut up and believe. But we can do these things for ourselves now. We have the technology. We don't need to spend millions and billions of dollars. We can possibly even do it on a budget of hundreds of dollars, the sort of thing that most of us earn in a single day these days. Or, after your weekly expenses you'd still have left over. You could probably do it if you worked out a plan within a couple of months to have enough equipment to send up your own helium balloon with the right camera equipment, with the right tracking data to retrieve it, and prove the Earth is flat. And my friends, this moon is probably fully eclipsed. Oh, it's just a little sliver. It's just a little sliver now. And it is, interestingly, because the only timepiece I have is on this device and can't open 2 windows at a time, but it's probably about 9 o'clock by now, give or take. And so I hope I've inspired somebody to look into the truth. The truth. You can't deny the truth once you look into it for yourself. This Earth is not spinning. It is not moving. Whatever is eclipsing the moon out there right now, it seemed logical to people in 500 BC, 2,500 years ago, or depending on which timeline you believe in, 1,500 years ago. It doesn't really matter. Even if they believed it 50 years ago, we now have technology and equipment that can test these things for ourselves. And I'm telling you, that's not the Earth's shadow going across the face of the moon. It is the shadow of another celestial body which normally follows the sun. It is known as Rahu, R-A-H-U, or it is also known as Lilith, L-I-L-I-T-H. Wow, this is the darkest full moon I've ever walked outside under, because even though the moon is full, it's now a tiny little sliver. The dogs are barking. This is really quite something. So I'm going to have to stop this and take some still pictures and see what stars show up, because I think my camera is still set on night mode. And we are living in fascinating times. Fascinating times. Times that mankind, throughout all of our recorded history, has ever had a chance to witness. So this gives us a responsibility to be the first to record it, to talk about it, and to share the wealth so that the future generations will no longer live in ignorance. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.